So, welcome to this week's episode of Women Celebrating Women with me, Franny Kirby, and this week's amazing, very ethereal looking and incredibly beautiful Stephanie Light is with me. Stephanie, would you like to talk to our viewers a little bit about yourself?
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Stephanie Light. Some of you may be familiar, some of you may not, but I am a deep trance state channel, but I am also a psychic medium as well as many other things, a coach, a self-empowerment coach. I'm happy to be on Franny's show today. And just to give you a little bit of a background, how I started, what is deep state trance channeling, right? Some of you may not know, and that's okay because it is very new to the mainstream. I mean, it's been around for quite some time. Some of you may be familiar with some other channel material like Abraham Hicks. But pretty much what that means is that I am going into a deep meditation where you could say go unconscious. And I am using energy of communication. So I'm connecting with mostly galactic beings is my specialty, but I'm also very open to these interdimensional beings, people that have passed on, and they are communicating through energy or vibrations. And then my higher self, although I am not conscious, my higher self takes the pieces of information and then is communicating back. And of course, using my vocal cords and my language in order to speak out. And so this is how deep trance state channeling works. But yes, so I started with what's called automatic writing. Some of you may have heard the terminology angelic writing, depending on your own personal journey. But essentially, it is very much the same, working with energy. It is conscious, but you're writing. That's where I began, very young age. And I was always very open, a highly sensitive child, being born into a highly contrasted environment. So it was very different for me internally growing up and compared to some of the other peers that I have experienced with over the course of time. But that's where it began. And then it moved into more of a conscious based channeling where some of you are familiar with that. When I speak to someone and they ask me a question about their life or advice, I may just all of a sudden just talk and have all of this wisdom, didn't know where it was coming from. My aunt, for example, went through a nasty divorce. And I had never gone through a divorce, but I seem to have known her pain and was able to guide her through an awareness. And then later on along the line, I moved into trance channeling, which is how I discovered initially was through Bashar. Many of you are familiar with Bashar. And it piqued my interest, and I started going to practice groups, and I was trying really hard. Like I was like, okay, well, I can connect because I've always been able to connect to spirits as well. So I'm always able to connect to all these beings, and I'm able to do this, and I'm able to do that. Why can't I trance channel? I was just trying so hard that I thought it was supposed to look a certain way. And then when I really relaxed, I was able to really pull in that energy. So the point of why I do what I do is mainly to assist others in understanding the true power within themselves. And of course, drum roll, to prepare for open contact, because that's essentially what is driving me to do this kind of work. Yes, open contact is the idea that extraterrestrials that do not live on Earth at some point in the future, there will be a massive shift on our Earth, which is already happening, as you can see all around you. There will be a time period where some of these beings that are what you call hybrids are going to live amongst the humans in an integrated fashion in the future, of course, but preparing people to be able to experience that. And for those of you that are not open to the idea, experience helping you to experience becoming empowered with yourself and having that love and that peace within yourself, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much money you have, it doesn't matter how many people in your life, what you are doing, if you are not truly happy, then
None
everything
of it.
else is no.
Absolutely.
So
I'd love to go back and ask you about what your first experience that you remember as a child of realizing that you were able to connect with I don't know, other beings, or channel in some form or way. Do you remember when you first realized that?
Well, I didn't actually start to really recognize that I'm able to channel until I was a little bit older, like maybe preteen-ish age. But really, when I think back now, when I was little, I can recall actually having experiences with beings not from our planet. I started having those memories again, but also just laying in bed, right? And I would see all these little orbs, like these tiny little orbs. To me, it looked like I was in space. And I would lay in bed in the morning and just stare and like see all of these little orbs that it was like if you would look out in space, you see all these stars, right? But that was like encompassing all around me, and being able to really feel people's energy as a child, as being in that highly contrasted environment. I was able to pick up on all of my mom's stuff, all of my dad's stuff. I was carrying it for so long that I didn't even know because I was so sensitive to that energy. But the memories of being really maybe even an infant, because the memories, of course, are a little bit spotty, but
Yeah.
having these beings around me, surrounding my crib, just giving me so much
Love.
love. And
Mm.
then remembering goes even deeper than that, because I remember just the connection of my soul and being part of this galactic federation or this interstellar alliance, like being very strong. It's like I feel inside, yes, my parents are my parents and I love them very much, but they're my human parents. And it feels like I have a family that extends beyond anything in the physical realm. And that's like the most important memory, I would say, for me, to feel. Is it really so much the memory of being a child and having these beings speak to me, or seeing and perceiving outside of physical dimension? Yes, I did experience that, but it's really a remembering of who I am, why I came here.
Mm. That's amazing that you're able to recall all of that, and like you said, memory sometimes can be patchy, but I truly believe get them, we are shown the memories that we're meant to see, or what's going to serve us and help us in this human experience. I just feel really interested when you were talking about being a highly sensitive child. How did you? I probably had a similar experience as a child in that I was highly sensitive and picking up all the whatever the energy is going on with various family members. How have you navigated that across your life, that incredible, like the empathy and that the sort of probably the psychic nature of some of it, of being able to know almost before someone else knows what's going on. How do you integrate that and manage that in your everyday life? Because I think there's a lot of people out there who maybe would be highly sensitive as well, and then maybe really helpful to hear how you manage it all.
Yeah, so when I was younger, I didn't manage it because I didn't know
Yeah.
that was what was actually happening. So I just took it on as mine, right? And through that, when I became a teen, I went through a really serious spiritual awakening.
Mm.
Mind blowing, the biggest spiritual awakening I have ever had in my life. And through that experience where I felt this dense energy in me, in my, I could say in my body, in my mind, whatever, it was encompassing around me. And it went through a point where it was like 1 foot of awareness of another dimension and being physically here. But I would say to you that in that time, um, the most thing that really brought me back to being physically here and not getting lost in that energy that wasn't mine was, I would have to say, it was my guides, the Galactic Council, like Galactic Federation, Interstellar Alliance. It was all of that energy because they, as I mentioned before, it's like they're my family. It's like my true parents, right? But now navigating through, and this may help a lot of people, is to become aware that we always have a choice. So, for example, when somebody says something to me that is hurtful, say, I, in that moment, if I choose to be a victim, if I choose to say that person's being harmful to me, and I become angry or I become sad right then and there, that's your cue. You're giving your power away to that person. If you were truly in your center and somebody said something nasty to you, yeah, okay, for a moment you might reflect on it and say, wow, that was pretty bad. But you have a choice at that moment to take your power back and say, okay, this person said this. Am I going to walk away from this person, or am I going to carry it and take it as mine? Because the moment you choose to align with that vibration, is the moment you take it on. That's one tip. The other tips are, of course, being aware of yourself, being aware of where you are at in your mind and in your heart. For example, if you go to the grocery store and you're in a happy, joyful mood, which has happened to me a few times, and you come out and you're like wanting to rip everyone's head off on the road, or you're just feeling you're out of that wobble, you're in that wobble. That's a moment to take a step in to yourself and say, whoa, whoa, whoa. I went to the grocery store and I was fine. I was having a great mood. And all of a sudden now I'm like in a really bad place. What happened? Whether it's a trigger, maybe you didn't have any triggers at all. You just got tired and you're absorbing all of the energy in the store. Of course, you're going to absorb it like a sponge, and you don't even know that you're taking everybody's stuff on. And the other one is always when you go into public places, and if you know for some reason, for whatever reason, you are not able to keep yourself centered in other energies, you're not aware of the other energies, keep a bubble around you. In your back of your mind, visualize this golden bubble around you, protecting your aura. Those that have the highly sensitive characteristics are going to have a much larger aura, which is part of the reason why you have a tendency to take other energies on. But I will say the most important aspect for me in my journey is to be aware that where you choose to focus your attention and energy, so if you're choosing victim versus empowerment, then right off the bat, you're taking that on. You're throwing someone's experience. So that person that was nasty to you, maybe they had a nasty experience a week ago or 5 years ago, but they're still carrying that pain, right? And they lash out at you. And the moment you choose to align with that energy, they may be tossing at you and take it on as yours. That's when you choose in that moment to take it on. To absorb that energy. So that's the biggest, I think that is one of the most powerful pieces, because people don't realize that experiences that they have and how they choose to react to those experiences, allow you to put it in your belief backpack or your energetic backpack that you're carrying. And of course that backpack gets heavy over time. You need to unload, you need to let go.
That's amazing. Thank you for that's like so interesting when you were saying that people who are highly sensitive have larger auras, and that's what's going on. And as you were saying that, the sort of the evolution that we can go through when we've been a very sensitive person, because there were certainly times for me where I would have done what you're talking about. It can be really helpful to feel that bubble, whereas these days I feel like I've kind of stepped beyond that. Like I feel maybe that like you're saying, like this is a better sense of alignment and center, that you're in a space where you're much more able just to be, you don't need to protect or keep yourself safe, because you've moved to a point where you're energy field is in a different space with it. But really important to recognize the different kind of parts of our journey where we might, and also maybe even when we've had that, sometimes we might have other things come up that mean that we start to feel that kind of we want to kind of look after ourselves and do that. So really great tip that for doing that.
And the other thing about that, what you're saying, is something that just came into my awareness to explain, is that, when our sense of self is strong, when we're really strong with who we are in this physical reality, which is in relation to an energy point in your body, the root chakra, when you really are strong in that area and you really are strong with yourself, and you know who you are, you know what your energy looks like, you know where your attention is going, you're conscious, you're mindful, and you are making choices that are healthy and helpful for your growth and expansion, then when you are in those places of contrast where there are different types of energies, they can get in that bubble because the bubble is automatically activated. But for those that are still figuring things out, which is totally okay. And for
Absolutely.
those that are still, experiencing the wobble, and if you find that doing this practice with your mindfulness and being strong in your root chakra may be too much of a vibrational gap, that's when the bubble can help tremendously because,
Yeah.
you know, let's face it, we're all going through some sort of transformation, very much like snake energy, right? We're shedding that old skin. No matter how beautiful our skin is, we're always shedding. And so when we understand that within ourselves, and it's okay to use a bubble if you need to, it's okay to ask for help if you need
Absolutely,
extra help.
absolutely. It's listening to when you were talking earlier about your guides, and not every, and maybe I'll ask you a question on this in a minute. So maybe for some people they may not feel that they can openly access that, but they may be able to connect with like an inner knowing or an intuition of like what feels good for me. And actually what feels good for me in this minute is, or I'm going out, that I put, like you said, I have a golden bubble around me. I feel that sense of safety and security. So yeah, absolutely. I there's a few questions coming to mind, so I'm very excited about all these different things that I'm thinking. But maybe we could touch a little bit on what you recommend to people who might want to get in touch with guides, or spirit guides, or their spirit team, and how they might, just in their own time, and also obviously that you may have some other recommendations as well, what people can do to kind of connect more and be open to the messages that they might be getting from their guides. What sorts of things might you recommend?
Oh, this is a beautiful question. So, with connecting directly to spirit energy, such as maybe your guides, or even interdimensional, or even galactic guides, because we have so many different types of guides, ascended masters, whatever it is, archangels. One of the biggest parts that I find to be the most helpful for people connecting is to establish some sort of a routine where you are giving yourself a permission to quiet the mind.
Mm-hmm.
So it can look like a meditation for people.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are just not into the meditation, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
You can meditate other ways. And to meditate, what I mean by that also is just silencing the mind. Some people want to do a visualization. Some people want to do a breath work exercise. There is art. Whenever you're doing art, you're in the zone, you're in the flow. Your mind is silence. You're in a flow. Um, Writing, for some people that helps, dance even. There are so many ways for you to can just quiet the mind. And
Mm.
when you quiet the mind, you're giving your higher self permission to speak. And when you give yourself permission to speak in that way, you're also opening up the doorways to your guides to be able to relay messages to your higher self and your physical self to be able to understand what those messages are. So it can look like something like this. You are closing your eyes. Maybe you're listening to some relaxing music. You're calming the mind. You're giving yourself time to breathe. You're focusing on your breath. You're giving yourself that time to be alone and in silence, or not silence because the music, but you know
But
what I mean. The
silence
mindset.
internally. Yeah.
And if it's pure silence, that's totally fine too. Whatever works for you. It is going to be the least resistant path for you to quiet the mind. Maybe you're doing it in a bath. Maybe you're doing it on a walk or a hike. Does not matter. And when you are here in this space, then you are just simply
Excuse me.
silencing everything. And you are allowing, and then you listen with your internal self. Similar to when you are thinking about a decision. Well, this is more of a mind example, but it's similar in
Yeah,
that
no,
way.
absolutely.
You're thinking about a decision and you're closing your eyes and you're just, okay, this one or that one. And maybe the mind is asking questions in that example, and that's that example for making a decision. But it's really just getting into that place of stillness. And if you have a specific question when you are in this place of stillness, I would always recommend just allowing first, then come up with the questions. But if you're just allowing, more than likely, the question that you may have is already going to be out there because it's already within you. So the answer may come, or you may simply get other information that you did not you did not expect, and that's totally okay. And I would do this as a practice whenever it feels exciting, because there's no forceful in the flow. Flow is flow. So you do it when you feel good. And keep a recollection of a journal of these. And you can always do exercises where you imagine, because your imagination is literally the doorway or the portal to the other dimensions. So when you feel excited, when you think of a certain type of being and the way that it looks, this is one exercise I give my clients. It's an avatar. So when you feel excited about certain aspects about your guide, you may think of just a random guide, maybe the highest or your main guide, and you start to feel excited about, oh, this guy has blue skin and it has large eyes and it's this tall. Start writing all of this stuff down and just allow it to flow. Don't stop and don't think about it. Just allow it. And when you are writing, you may find that you may begin to write some messages from your mind specifically to you. And also, of course, I always do different types of workshops. In the near future, we will be looking at doing a spirit guide workshop, connecting with your spirit
Love
guide.
that. Love that.
So, yeah.
How would you, because I think those are all amazing ways, and I love that you came up with lots of different ways, because I think like you were saying, that everyone has different ways of quieting their mind. Like some people, like a meditative state, sitting still feels really good. For others, like you said, it might be when they go hiking. I love that you say all that. What about like the sort of so as opposed to a message that you might kind of hear or like internally hear, like when and I'm just thinking, and for anyone who's on the video, you can see there's like a canvas behind me where I had this one magical day last year where we went out, and I just felt like there was so many messages in places that I went from my guides, and it was things like, you are loved, choose love, you are enough, like, and like kind of angel wings. There was so much in just one day, just so many signs. How would you what would you say to people about how they might connect with signs that they might see, or messages that might not be a kind of a clear sort of spoken in not spoken, but within their mind? What would you sort of recommend around that? What sorts of things?
So this is a perfect question, because a lot of times, and this also has to do with a lot of other types of questions, like, for example, dreams, things like that. A lot of people want to understand the metaphors. What does this mean? What does that mean? And it may not always look like what it actually means. And the most important part about these signs and these signals that you see is really to check in with your emotional state. Because, for example, if you're driving down the road and you see a license plate that says 1111 and you are like ecstatic, you're excited, maybe you're talking about moving to a certain place, or maybe you're having a conversation about, a loved one and you're just excited to see that loved one. When you connect in that moment and you notice it and it's just flat out, it's a sign. Whatever you feel is your straightaway answer.
Oh, I love that.
The brain, the mind, we as humans, our ego, which is, to me, when I say ego, I mean our physical identity on earth. Everybody has one. There's no escaping it. You can't kill it. It's always present. There's ways to balance it. But
Absolutely.
your ego, your mind is going to want to overcomplicate. Oh, I saw the numbers and there was a red light and this was happening and that was happening. And I wonder what it all means. Well, sometimes it's not what it is physically that you see. It's what it invigorates inside of you. That's your answer.
Absolutely. An example might be interesting that was coming to mind as you were talking. We were on a motorway coming home one day, and I'd been going to visit my mum, and my dad passed over like a number of years ago, and his name, we used to call him Freddie, and I saw a van that said Freddie's Flowers, and I was like, I knew straight away it was my dad. And then I got home, and lovely Facebook, I'm on Facebook, and then I started to see adverts for Freddie's Flowers, and they just started to come up, and I loved it. I was just like, every time I'd see it, and they don't come up all the time, but just every so often I'll get an advert. And then we got a flyer through the door from Freddie's Flyers, and I was just like, this is my dad. He's just, and I know, like, when we're in non-physical, that we're kind of source energy, so it's just the kind of the representation. But for me, it's just that, it's that father's love, it's that love, that kind of like unconditional love, that it just connects me straight away. And when you were saying, what does it do, what does it invigorate, and for me that would be, this sense of just someone who just loves me, sort of. It's just incredible. So yeah, that was such a lovely way of describing it, because I've definitely experienced that myself. And it's when we really allow it, and when you were talking about the ego, and we don't try and like you said, complicate it, don't try and work, just allow how it feels. This feels so lovely, I feel so excited, and I just that then is exactly, it just makes things like magic, doesn't it? It feels magical. Yeah.
And I think the biggest part is two things I wanted to say about your experience with your dad, Freddie. Yeah, absolutely. I do feel that. I do feel like he is telling you, hey, I know what you're doing, and I love you, and I'm so excited. And something to do with flowers and you being a blossoming beauty is pretty much what I feel like. You standing in that beauty and him recognizing that. And yeah, if you would imagine that everything essentially is energy, right? Even this physical table here, that's energy. But if we notice only the physical things, whether it is a message or even in just in general in life, if we only notice the physical things, then we're only using one part, or maybe it may be many parts, but we're not using a certain part of our brain that we could be using, that creates the experience that we are more evolved, like these other extraterrestrial civilizations or these interdimensional beings. And that, just to give you another idea, is like when we think about these messages and, oh, I was at a stoplight and I saw this and I saw that. What a red light, what does that mean? A red light, someone with a plate that says 111, what does that mean? Oh my God. Like, and then there was a dog crossing the road, and we want to take all of these things and try to piece them together. But really, in reality, in that moment, you sitting in the car, you saw the red light, you saw the 111, but you felt excited. That is your message right there. You're moving in the right direction. That's all it meant. But the mind sees only the physical, unless we open ourselves up to see beyond that physical.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that when you were saying it, to open up. And that then brings me to the other question I was thinking about when you were talking earlier, about how we're shedding and we're going through a transformation. And one of the things that I kind of, and I think lots of people are picking up on this in the last year, and I know like Bashar and Abraham Hicks would talk about it as well, is that the earth, the version, this reality that we're living in, this current earth, it feels like we're going through a really powerful shift right now, and a transformation, and a raising of the collective vibration in a way that I don't think I've experienced in my lifetime. And I would love to hear your perspective on this, because I've got a feeling you've got some really juicy things to say about it. So what
Oh,
would you say?
yeah. So, as far as what is actually happening right now, it is absolutely amazing, right? So, now I'll share this small piece of information, then I'll get to the really juicy stuff. So, so in our evolution, okay, you notice our evolution has changed many, many times. And if you look back in history, and I believe, and I've been told that the history that we understand to be true is not really what it is. I mean, there are pieces, yes, but there are things that are rewritten, and there are a lot of things that are left out.
Mm-hmm.
And but over the course of time, as you see, humans have evolved very differently. There was a point in time that we were going towards a different path, not necessarily of ascension, not necessarily in the way that we would see it be. So, a little bit of background. So, the way that I see things is this: when we have a moment, each moment, right? We choose each moment. And essentially, we always evolve no matter what choice we make. But sometimes when we make the choice that is not the least resistant, we go down other paths, other, I call them adventures or journeys. Now, they sometimes are more contrasting. That's okay. But we always find our way back along our path of expansion. Now, I don't know how familiar with the views are of the Gray civilization. Okay. They are another version of Earth, another version of humans that have evolved a little bit differently. They went through that choice of an adventure, right? And then they changed their appearance. They've changed many, many things along their journey. But essentially, they ended up getting into a place, of course, ascension, evolution, right? But they went down this kind of a, I don't want to say like dingy path, a little bit more of a resistant path, right? And us humans, we were moving in that direction at one point, but we have shifted things. Our collective consciousness has shifted, and we now are moving in the path that is avoidant of the gray effects or similar to the gray effects. And now we're moving into more of alignment with, say, the Pleiadians, which are very high dimensional extraterrestrial civilization, very similar to the human race. And what that means, for those of you that don't are not familiar with this, it means that, you know what, we've all wanted this happy world. We all wanted this happy earth, full of peace, full of love, full of all of these expressions that you would understand to be godlike or source-like, in other words. We are moving in that direction. But in order for us to fully integrate all of that, we ourselves individually must be willing to move forward into this new earth. And what that means is getting rid of the old beliefs, getting rid of the old paradigm energies, things that you may be subconsciously choosing or even consciously choosing. Be willing and ready to open your heart with love. And along this journey, you will see many things change. Medical systems going to change, and that's worldwide. I mean, I know based on the US itself and our healthcare system, but I'm sure in many other countries it is not up to par either. So that will, you will see that change. You will see a lot of the governments and the economy change. A lot of the people that are currently eating a lot of the processed foods, they are going to be making shifts. It may take some time for some, but remember, this is not going to happen in a year. We
No.
still got some time. So, but it is already happening. Disclosure is already happening. We, as a collective, are becoming more and more awake. This last time with the pandemic, a lot of people woke up. A
Mhm.
lot of people made choices that were better for their lives, and people will continue to do so. You will see a lot of people that are ready to leave Earth. You will see them leave. You will simply see them leave. But all in all, this is going to create an experience for all of us that is going to be more in alignment with what we want. So remember this one idea from what this answer is. And that simply is this: remember why you chose to come here, what you really want, and understand that even if you are currently in this moment experiencing contrast or something you don't prefer, remember you have to get it out in order to allow others things to get in, other energies. So just hang on tight. One example I want to share really quickly is like, in my experience, I even caught myself doing this before, and I laughed so hard at myself. Okay, my neighbor next door, he was yelling at his chickens. I think it was the chickens, or was it the goats? I don't know. One of those. He was
Yelling
yelling
at
at
his animals. Yep.
that aggressive energy, that mean energy. And I have a soft spot for animals and children, very soft spot because they're so pure.
Mm.
And I heard him doing this. And what did I do? Immediately, boom, I got mad. I got mad. And I stopped and I checked in. I said, whoa, whoa, what am I experiencing here? It's obviously a trigger. But and I've seen this a lot collectively. We see the actions of others are harmful towards others, and we want to speak out, which is
Mhm.
totally okay. But where is that coming from? Is that coming from a place of anger? Are you triggered? Because remember, if we want to experience peace, harmony, and love, we need to embody it ourselves, because we cannot
Absolutely.
match the vibration of something that we are not practicing, that we are not noticing. So we cannot embody love, we cannot embody peace if we are angry at others or ourselves, or just unhappy in general. We cannot, it doesn't happen outside first. Remember, it happens inside. We need to match
Absolutely.
that vibration.
Absolutely. And the outside is only ever a reflection of what's going on inside. So if we see, if we feel that there's lots of angry people around us, it's having a coming back to ourselves and noticing.
Yeah.
I'm really interested when you talk about this as well, around some of my experiences recently around really allowing and receiving and loving it all, whether it be joy, excitement, or if it is anger or sadness. That actually that when we can really sit with ourselves and allow and come from a loving space, that actually we can experience those kind of what we might call lower vibrations like anger and sadness in a different way, because we're not we don't become the anger, so we don't become the sadness, but we can feel it, we can allow it, and we can feel, in our energy body, we can kind of, we can feel it there, we know what it is, we can allow it. And just that for me has been an incredible growth experience, to be able to really sit and allow those energies in a kind of from a much bigger space of holding,
Yeah.
and that we can, and it's definitely the message that I've had from my guides, is that we can experience and hold those, and we're still holding a vibration of love. And I'd love to hear from you a little bit about how you experience that, or how that is for you.
So I think that the way you described it is good. And I think that so there is a difference between embodying anger and becoming anger, meaning that vibration, and observing. So there's a two different experiences, right? So in the idea or the context of becoming angry with someone,
Mm-hmm.
right? And or something. Now, it's okay to feel that. But when you are feeling that, stop, take a moment, take a step back, observe, do not become that particular vibration, observe it.
Mm-hmm.
You are giving yourself the room to feel
Mm-hmm.
it, to accept it, to acknowledge it. But when you are ready, and everybody's going to be different, you can choose to be self-empowered and transform that. Because when you stay in that vibration, then you allow more of those circumstances to come within your reality. So it's a very, very thin line, I feel. And a lot of people don't really understand that difference. And one thing about that experience is a lot of my clients, I've had a lot of clients that believed that in order for them to experience an understanding of love, in order for them to experience peace or anything that is high vibration, that they have to go in the contrast in themselves to dig it out. And that is an old
Mm,
type of way.
absolutely.
We can witness our triggers and use them and think highly of them as opportunities to transform an old belief or old memory. But when you, and an allowance is where you allow yourself to experience that,
Mm,
but there is a point where you can choose in that moment to be self-empowered. So we look
absolutely.
back at our past, and we look at our past and we say, okay, this happened to me. I
Mm,
felt this way for this so long, and now I feel this way now because I'm having a trigger. But you can go back to that memory and recreate a new definition on it.
absolutely. And as you were talking there, and you were talking about what was coming to me as you were talking about, like when that we can have a moment. So we're, someone outside, we feel anger, like anger towards them initially, and then we're like, catch ourselves, like you're saying.
Yeah.
And it's in that catching that feels like the point of choice, and then the point of awareness, and then that awareness and that allowing, and coming back to, where do I feel this? So where is this in my body? What does
Yeah.
it feel like? What is it? What's its shape? And allowing it space without actually acting on it, and becoming
Mhm.
it. To me, then it's like you are then still the vibration of love and awareness, that's
Yes.
allowing all, and that kind of unconditional love of our whole selves, which is how source energy, how those higher vibrations, or beings who are in those higher vibrations would see us in whatever's going on for us. um I don't
Yeah.
know, yeah, I don't
I
know how
think,
that kind of comes to how that feels for you.
yeah, I mean, I think that what I was also going to say, one thing that has really helped me is a deep understanding, and this may not always sit well for everyone, but it really, if you really think about it from the highest perspective, such as source energy,
Mm,
you may see it in this light, and if not, it's okay.
absolutely.
But it's like for me and my journey and my experiences. And of course, before I say this, I want to let everybody know all truths are true. Remember that whatever you choose to
Mhm,
align with is your journey. So
mhm,
these are my experiences. So, for example, like I've gone through many different contrasted experiences, such as, say, sexual trauma, sexual abuse,
mm, mm,
and it took a lot for me to come into a place of forgiveness and come into a place of acceptance and love. One day, one of my guides shared with me the vibration that, from the highest perspective, everything that happens is an act of love.
mhm,
Whether or not it's
mm,
something you prefer, whether or not it's nasty, it's racy, it's experiencing great pain,
mm,
and it may have to do with somebody else. But when you think about your soul and choosing these certain experiences for your growth and your evolution,
mm,
then you understand that everything is actually an act of unconditional love. Because if you, as a soul, and that person as a soul, is the embodiment of source, and there was an agreement through love that, hey, if you make this decision and you go down this path, I'm going to be there with this lesson for you. And you say, okay. And then, of course, the human mind doesn't recognize that, doesn't know that. And then you experience that great pain that you experienced. But what did you get out of the experience? What did it teach you? What did it bring to you? And that's really the point when I said about experiencing rewriting the definition of that memory. What did you get from it? What can you take from it that can be helpful now? But when you understand it from that view, which I've done for my own personal experiences and traumas, it has helped transform those for me, because I understood myself. Yes, I'm in a physical body. Yes, my name is Stephanie, but that's my earth name. That's my physical body. There's another aspect of me that's far greater than anything in this physical reality, because this physical reality is actually inside of me and my consciousness. So when you can really see it from that point of view, it becomes a little bit easier to get into a place of forgiveness and love.
And that sounds incredible that you've been able to do that, Stephanie, that you were able to move through that. And they, obviously, like you said, all truths are truths. And so for some people, there may be, their experience that they may want to hold different beliefs. But I also think that there may be some people who would feel encouraged that you were able to move through that, and I don't know if you would call it moving on or becoming more whole, or whatever, however you would define it, that you've got to a place in your life where it's not you're able to speak in the way that you're able to speak about it, that it sounds like you're coming from such a place of love and connection when you talk about it, that would be incredibly healing for any of us, I think, to be able to talk about something that potentially could be very traumatic and was very traumatic, and now be able to speak of it with such love and connection. So that's incredible that you're able to do that. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. And one thing that my guides are saying for me to say is that it's not the actions themselves that is an act of love. They want to make sure you understand that physically what is happening on this physical earth is not necessarily in that way, like, say, for example, sexual abuse. That's not an act of love. They're saying to make sure that I underline that. It is the vibration, it is the intent, it is the energy that we cannot physically see. But when we connect to our higher self and understand that every bond, regardless of what that person or where that person's coming from, is an extension of source energy and love. And that's one of the biggest things. The other thing I wanted to share about what you just said was, yes, so that rewriting the memory is one particular way to move past a loop. So there are other types of loops in other types of situations. And when we can actually take the golden nugget, as Cece calls it, from the experience and begin to apply it in such a way where we're changing our perception, then we can easily and safely move on when we're ready, of course. When we're ready, we are easily able to safely move on and not allow it to become our vibration set point, right? Because you noticed, I don't know, my experiences when I've gone through things and I've still held on to it. I was in my pain body, and guess what? Other things that are similar happened to me because I was in that pain body still, and I attracted that energy, that vibration. I was carrying it because it became my vibrational set point. But we can easily and safely move on when we're ready into a different type of place. It's not to say that no, things never happened, like this memory or that memory, or no, that person never passed, or whatever experience that may be painstaking for you. It is to say that we've moved into a place that, yes, we recognize what it is and how it affected me at that time, but now I am consciously aware. I can choose to be happy. I can choose to be self-empowered. I can choose to forgive myself and others.
I was going to say, when you're talking about that, and I what was coming to mind for me was that it was a different experience, but for me being physically unwell for a number of years, and a blame that I carried for myself, that somehow that was my fault, that I'd got things wrong, that it wasn't, and to be able to forgive myself for and just say, you know what, I was always, all of us at any point in our life are always doing the best we can in that moment. We're always, my belief anyway, and like you said, all truths are true, is that we're always the best version of ourselves in any moment. And so we can only ever be, that's the best, that's the best we can ever be. And whether we're like, a small child where we've had to deal with some, very difficult circumstances, and or, an adult in our 50s or 60s, that we're always doing the best we can with what's going on, and later on we might be, when we're conscious about it, we may choose different perspectives, and we might choose a different belief that serves us, but we're always in that moment doing the best we can.
Yeah, and I just wanted to also add to what you said about your situation and give this as an example for people to understand. So when you said that you had to come to peace with forgiving yourself for being unwell and doing the best that you can, but also taking it up another notch, or to move a little bit deeper, is to say that, what has this brought to you? Like, look how empowered you are. Like, look how radiant you are. Look at the momentum, the drive that was built in that time period that you were unwell. So just because you were unwell, and because you weren't physically able to do everything that you wanted to, you were doing some major deep work, because you were building that foundation, because now you can be that example for other women, or even men. You can be that radiant example to say, hey, guess what? I was unwell for this long, but guess what, guys? I'm back, and I'm even more powerful. I'm even more radiant. I'm sparkling. Look at me. And that gratitude and appreciation you feel for your body has gone up another notch.
Absolutely.
Right? And now you have the ability and the wisdom and the confidence to be able to tap into the confidence in your wisdom that you already have had. And now you're able to share that with other women or even men. Like, you are able to carry that, and you're able to help build the bridge of inspiration as being like this breakthrough specialist, this gatekeeper, what is the other one that Nick says? He says something else. I can't remember it right now. I said it earlier too when I was
oh, it's fine, because what you said was really, really touching me right here. I could almost feel myself welling up, because it feels, what you just said feels so true, like energetically. Absolutely, that there was whilst at the time it wasn't definitely not what I preferred, it definitely brought some very dark, contrasting times for me, that actually now I have a much deeper, a hugely deeper sense of myself, and almost can now view that as although it wasn't a retreat, almost a period of retreat, and that it was, in terms of a divine unfolding, was exactly what, the path that I was meant to take. Again, like I said, I wouldn't have chosen it. I'm still not sure now whether I would have definitely chosen all of it, but I definitely can see what it has brought, and like you said, my energy now is just a whole other level. And when I say, and I'm not even just saying that from a physical, not just even physically, there's so much more vibrationally going on than there ever was before. So and then I think that then brings us nicely to the earth and the analogy of the last year that you were talking about, and I realized I'm conscious that we're probably going to wrap up soon, but there was one more question I wanted to ask you, which was, you were talking about the earth and the transformation that we're going from, and I know you talked at the start, and I just wanted to sort of bring this in, about open contact, and how you would see that as being connected to what's going on with the earth, and our kind of path towards a sort of more enlightened way of life, and those higher vibrations that hopefully most of us aspire to living with or in.
Yeah, that's a great question, because for those of the viewers and readers, for those of the viewers that are watching, they may not understand the concept. So I'm happy to share this. So when we evolve, and as we become more in a place within our alignments, within our natural self or our higher self, right? We come back to essentially home. We remember who we are, and our vibration increases. And these beings from these other planets are high dimension. And now, say they come to Earth, say they just decide to come and meet us. I don't know. What's going to happen if we're not integrated with our higher self or our natural self? Because of that large vibration gap, it's going to get uncomfortable. That's when the fears, this is when you're going to see fears come up. People are going to feel, and they're going to feel that trigger of everything that they have not integrated is going to rise up for them to integrate, primarily because of that vibrational gap. So when the earth itself is evolving and changing, because remember, the earth is also a consciousness. So when the earth is changing and we're not experiencing our vibration, our alignment, our integrative of our higher self, what happens? There's a vibrational gap. And this is where you're going to see people having more physical problems, more of pains in the body, sicknesses, illnesses. People may pass away. They may experience more contrast within themselves. But I'm not saying that everyone is going to experience that. But the more we choose to be there for ourselves, show up for ourselves, even if it's 1%, the more you will evolve and the more you will prepare for this open contact setting. I hope that answered your question.
No, that was a great way. I guess then I'm just gonna ask you one final question, because I'm so excited to have you with me. So when you're channeling, when you're in your deep trance channeling, do you get a sense, do you get more of a sense of that higher vibration? Does it
Yes.
come through you in that, in like that you can feel it in your body? How does it feel?
So when I'm working with these high vibration energies or high dimension energies, I feel it, yes. But remember, when we're channeling, no being is actually going inside of us, but the vibrations of the experiences, yes, that vibration is going in my body. So to say that when people experience the channeling journey, when they start to get more serious about it, it is very much the same. You are integrating your higher self, and things that are no longer in alignment with you do rise up if they're not in alignment with that vibration of that particular civilization. So, but yes, I do feel that shift in energy. And when I am deep in the state, if for some reason I am just having a mediocre day and I'm not super high vibe, and I get in this state and I work with the energy, I become more and more in that high vibe state.
I love that. Oh, it's been so, I don't even know how to say it. I've been so lovely to talk with you. I feel like I could go on and on and on, but I'm gonna draw it to close. But I'd love you just briefly before we finish to let our viewers and our listeners know, like, where can they find you if they want to find more out about what you do, about the workshops that you offer, all of these lovely delights that you have on offer for them. Where can they find you?
Absolutely. So Now, on my Facebook, Stephanie Light, I have a Stephanie Light channeling page, and my website will be linked below. You can find me on Facebook, Stephanie Light, and on Instagram, Stephanie_Light0. And of course, YouTube, Stephanie Lights. And of course, those links will be down below in the video. But thank you so much, Franny, for having
Oh,
me.
it's been
So
so
exciting.
beautiful. Thank you so much, Stephanie. It's been
Thank you.
incredible.